In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2022. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our Township website. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Thal-Eglow?
Here.
Mr. Vinayak?
Here.
Mr. Wasserman?
Here.
Mayor Miggins?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. It has been requested of the Township Committee to remove Resolution 22-216 from consideration this evening. This resolution is concerning the approval of the Mott McDonald professional service contract and is expected to be back before the committee for consideration at our next meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as noted?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the March 1st, 2022 regular Township Committee minutes as revised?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No,
I wasn't here. I'm just abstaining.
abstain. Thank you, Ms. Prupus. May I have a motion to approve the June 21st, 2022 regular Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Vinayak is here to present to Chief Echeverria a proclamation, please.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Go through this first. And then give it to you. I'm here to give a proclamation to Chief Echeverria. Whereas as the Township of Millburn, New Jersey is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our town. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas smoke alarms send smoke well before you can, alerting you to danger in the event of fire, in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely or safely. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas Millburn residents should be sure their smoke and carbon monoxide alarms meet the needs of their family members, including those with sensory or physically disabilities. And whereas Millburn's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Won't Wait, please plan your escape, effectively serves to remind Millburn Township it is important to have a home fire escape plan. And now therefore it be resolved that the Millburn Township Committee, on behalf of the residents, does hereby proclaim October 9 through 15, 2022 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the township, and urge all the people of Millburn to plan and practice a home fire escape for Fire Prevention Week 2022, and to support many public service activities and efforts of Millburn and our mutual aid fire and emergency services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Township Committee. Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape works to educate everyone about simple yet important actions that they can take to keep themselves and those around them safe from home fires. We complete this week with our annual open house scheduled for October 15th, 12 to 2 p.m. Please stop by, participate, and most importantly, enjoy this Scream truck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Awesome. We will now consider reports. Our professional subcommittee members may directly report on matters under their purview. Please direct reports on matters and do not request that of other members or professionals. It's just not an appropriate time for dialogue or debate. I will start with our business administrator, Alex McDonald. Do you have anything to report on?
I do not have anything to report on currently.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Marizzi.
I do have a brief report on the status of Bear Properties. There was to have been a mediation session last week, but it was postponed inasmuch as there still is not a resolution of the issues concerning the exact terms of the confidentiality order regarding the release of the leases to the township.
Okay. So to be continued.
To be continued.
Anything else?
Nothing else.
Thank you very much. Ms. Prupus?
I have no reports.
No reports. Okay. Mr. Vinayak?
No reports, Mayor.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes, I'll go against the tide. I have a couple reports.
Okay, great.
So for Explore Millburn, we recently celebrated 2 ribbon cuttings for new businesses. Make sure you stop by the Book House at 281 Essex Street. And just collect memorabilia at 296 Millburn Avenue and welcome them to our township. We're also hosting the second of 2 seminars with Union County Economic Development Corporation at 9 a.m. on October 27th at Town Hall. And for those interested in learning about social media for small businesses, please RSVP Steve at exploremillburnshorthills.org. Mark your calendars because Amanda has been hard at work developing an exciting holiday season program. We're kicking off the season with our Here for the Holidays event on Thursday, November 3rd. Enjoy a DJ, fashion show, and other fun promotions while meeting over 25 SID vendors who can help you prepare for the holiday events. For more information, please come, but circle the date. Finally, our annual meeting for Explore Millburn is next Thursday, October 13th at 5:30 at Town Hall. We encourage all SID businesses and property owners to participate. We'll present the final draft of our 2023 budget, discuss holiday events, strategy, and introduce potential projects for next year. Those are my reports.
Thank you so much. Ms. Eglo?
Thank you. Okay, so a couple of these overlap, PSAP and parking, so I'll kind of give them both where they interact. Main Street in front of the cleaners and the nail salon, their parking will be made consistent with Main Street by M&T Bank up at the top of Main Street. Meaning there'll be no parking from 4 to 6 p.m. That's what we're finding, cars are stacking up. And those 2 or 3 spots will be changed to 2-hour limit the rest of the time. Because some people see fit to park there for hours on end and it's really not right.
Can you say where that is again?
Yeah, coming up Main Street from ShopRite on
Sure.
the right-hand side before you make the right at Ridgewood.
Sure.
Something we've been talking about for a long time, so.
Right before where the nursery school is.
Correct.
That one. Okay.
Mhm. So that's been a problem, that cars stack up there and people, it's a right on red, which I'll get to in a minute. So when the cars just sit there, there's no movement.
Mhm.
Taylor Street will have parking on one side. The one side with parking will be changed to 2-hour metered parking versus now it's 3 hours free. Pay stations will be installed probably in the new year.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're finding people just think that's another place they can just park all day without paying.
And that was the woman from Taylor Street who had requested that.
This has been talked about for a long time, but yeah, she
Of
brought that,
late.
yeah,
Mhm.
of late, so. And people who do live there do have resident stickers, so they can park there. Okay, this is not in a particular order. You know, we have electric vehicle spaces at the parking deck, and right now they're free. So in the future, by rules in New Jersey, we have to start putting in more EV stations. And we have to figure out how we're gonna charge people because We can't give this away for free. The township should not be paying to charge everyone's electric cars. In the beginning, it was thought to encourage people to get electric vehicles, and now there are tons on, maybe not tons, but many. So whereas the township does not pay for the gasolines for our car, we should not be paying to charge our citizens who bought electric cars. So that's gonna have to be sorted out. And also the 2 spots in the deck are commuter spots, so 2 cars can sit there all day and charge their cars. So something's gonna have to be figured out on that. Oh, Main Street. This is brilliant. I think South Mountain would be very happy. The no right on red will finally be changed by ordinance to Monday through Friday. Because that has been, all the time, makes no sense. It was really meant for school safety. We first tweaked the times to be when the crossing guards were out there. So, and in fact, the officer Pete, who was on the phone call with us, was saying that this sample is really just, it's a Monday through Friday thing. So that's gonna be a really good change between the 4 to 6, no parking there, and Monday through Friday. 2 really good changes been talked about for a long time. The Poet section, which has 4 large intersections, we had Brightview review them if they could have always stop signs. They do not meet the warrants. There's just not enough volume to do that. So again, we ask our residents, stop at the stop signs. These are residents who are in the Poet section. You know your neighborhood best. Do not fly through stop signs. The Short Hills train station, nothing we've been talking about for a long time. Before COVID, we had 2 really great sessions at the library. So that's going to be in our new reports. The report back from Brightview, our traffic consulting agency. Yeah, really, really great fixes there. At Ridgewood and Locust in the South Mountain section, there will be improvements there. They're gonna have, it's gonna be tweaked again, a larger island, and the conditions will be acknowledged by paint. And this is something that will not require a huge amount of construction in that neighborhood because we had a schematic drawn up during the Zoom meeting and it's gonna really help that. But once again, when I'm walking my dog and driving home, I'm seeing my own residents, neighbors who live at Locust, blowing through that stop sign. So again, we implore our neighbors, this is your neighborhood, stop at the stop signs. Another thing, Jesse, will you pull up that picture of the bump out on Milburn Avenue? Everyone knows that a big part of my campaign to start in the Township Committee was about the complete streets, and the bump outs are huge. So I was successful in getting the committee back then to shave down some of the bump outs, but if you look at this bump out, where there's a green parking spot for maybe Uber 15-minute spot. Can you zoom in closer?
Like where it says 577 up there?
Just put the man in there.
Put the man in there.
Well, the
Put the man in this. So what's happening, you can see at this bump out that it's all.
Keep going,
Little
keep
more.
turning. There you go.
Yeah, so what the mail truck is, so all we're doing is encouraging people to park there illegally. If that bump out is shaved, it would not affect the electronics, which is part of the reason why that huge bump out cannot be taken back without a huge cost. If we can shave that back a little bit, we can get 2 parking spots there, maybe stop some of this double parking, and it'll be a lot safer because you can't see because of the shade, but there's all black scuff marks, meaning cars are coming around that corner and they're bumping up and scuffing along the curb. So for a lot of reasons, that's something we can have our in-house look at.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think during the
During the PSAB meeting, or the parking meeting, we had discussed this as a possibility. We have to have somebody just go take a look, right?
Right. But there's, all these little tweaks we can do to make the downtown with circulation a little easier and safety and this would not hinder safety.
So it's just the one bump out by Milburn Deli.
Right, behind that mail truck where he's actually should not be, but it's funny how we got the picture right then. So
You want to put it in more parking
there could be
space?
2 parking spots there. The area it has to be measured by our traffic department, our in-house traffic engineer. But the point is that bump out, if it could be angled and shaved, because the reason that bump out was there, when Complete Street was designed, because they were gonna have reverse angle parking, which is never gonna happen. So that is going to be looked at also. Let's see, what else did we talk? We talked about a lot. A resident who called me after, she said to me, a lot of I wish you'd called me before, but there's so many people complaining about the Whittingham crossing onto Milburn Avenue by the post office and Oscars. And she said, have you ever considered, and I wish I brought it up, why we can't have little pedestrian bump outs? Like you see on Springfield Avenue when you're going down towards Maplewood, there's small manageable bump outs that just raise the pedestrian enough that the cars can see them. And they're just a little bit into the street in a safe position. So it's something I think we might want to look at also. Because right now, we all know cars are zipping up and 3 lanes of traffic. And if somebody stops in the middle lane, let's say, somebody on the right or left of them is continuing to speed up. So that might be an easy fix that doesn't have huge financial or intrusive into our Milburn Avenue until one day we can look at that whole area east of Main Street. Okay, so that's that, put the pedestrians' views of. This is someone who's kind of knowledgeable and she asked me to share that. On our PSAP committee is Brian Sobelman. He cross-checked all our pedestrian crash reports. And there were 7 in 2022 and 6 were in crosswalks. So what we'd like to do, working with the police, is share those crosswalks and how those hits occurred. And just by making our residents aware, once again, people in crosswalks are walking and the cars either said in the police report, I didn't see the pedestrian. For whatever reason, pedestrian is looking down. Everyone has to be aware. We can only do so much. The other thing is on the DRC, the Technical Review Committee. Where did I write that down? Let's see. Oh, the other thing, if we're waiting here from the Eagle Scouts, if they are going to do it for a project to provide the baskets on either side with the alert crossing orange flags that a lot of towns have. People want them. If we can get a couple of Eagle Scouts, do that for their project. They have to get the funding. They have to work with Town Hall to find out where we would want this, maybe at Lackawanna, maybe at Whittingham. But that's also something that has been very successful in a lot of towns and states. The DRC, which is the Development Review Committee, is coming along, a couple of more tweaks, and that should be presented at the next meeting. This is something also we've been talking about for a long time. Many towns have this. In fact, our planner, Graham, went and researched Summit and Montclair and all the towns that had that. We kind of picked the best of everything. So this committee is the committee to form a committee. And this should be ready to come to us at the next meeting. If it doesn't come to us at the next meeting, you need to have that first read, then a space and another read. So if we don't get this, it'll never happen this year. Then it'll be February. And this is really important because we want our applicants to come to the Planning Board or Board of Adjustment with a complete application. Because as we know, we hear it's very difficult to get before the boards, and the boards are very difficult. So the goal is to get them before the boards with a complete application. Can save them tens of thousands of dollars by not having repeat performances coming back, paying all their professionals. And the goal is also, if there's absolutely no variance needed, this board, this committee, would have the ability to actually approve an application. So it's really about streamlining the process, making it easier for Town Hall and really the applicants to want to bring their businesses into Milburn. The other thing that I came across, we all got our tax bills the other day, and there was, if you see, the first line by mistake was dropped. That is the county, 24%. And what's interesting, we get a lot of information from Essex County, and right after I got my tax bill, I get a tweet from Joe D that they're starting the demolition of the old Cherry Blossom Welcome Center in Essex County Branch Brook Park. A modern and larger building will replace it. I think we know that our Milburn tax dollars are really chipping in for that. And this is about what are we getting back for our tax dollars from Essex County. Another email we got, revitalizing Essex County Irvington Park. Milburn Township gets nothing back. And all the taxes that we are paying, we have a county open space tax that we're paying. But we don't have a Milburn open space tax that we could use at our discretion. And we talked about this at the last meeting. I think we'll be talking about it again. That would have to go through a referendum and education process to our residents. But we're paying not only our taxes to Essex County, we're paying into the county open space fund. What are we doing here for our residents, our open space, our recreation places. We also know that we have the library taxes. That is a state mandate. We all pay to the library, and we all use, or we want to use the library because we pay a huge portion of our taxes for that. So I think there are things that we really need to work on for our residents first. This is about Millburn's residents, their families first, not the county, until we can get some kind of better agreement that we need something given back to us. That's my reports. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can I make one comment about the flags?
For the
Flags,
Boy Scout thing?
yeah. So if that's something, if people are getting hit mostly in the crosswalks,
Mhm.
like, I would just think, and that's something so easy and it cannot be that expensive. And can't Milburn, don't we have money to do that? And not wait for the Boy Scouts to do it or not do it? It seems like at least try it in a few very highly trafficked crosswalks.
Yeah, I don't see any reason that we couldn't. I think I unfortunately wasn't able to be at the PSAB meeting. So I'd like to go back and take a look at the intersections that individuals were struck in the crosswalk, just to see if those are signalized or unsignalized.
And I'm in the downtown a lot and crossing, here and up by the post office, and it's always, I
By
have to be,
Oscars.
yeah,
It's terrible.
both, so maybe we could just try those there, and then if it's successful, then the Boy Scouts will even be more encouraged to continue with that project.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to talk about the grand reopening of the library. That will be, and there's a ribbon cutting, that will be this Saturday from 9:30 to noon. The library will be open and we're very excited about that. So please, everyone in town is invited. We hope you go. And that is it for me. So
Can I ask you a question? Was that library, we didn't get any grants, that was all with our taxpayer dollars. I don't believe I remember trying to, did we get any grants for that?
We did not. We
So,
applied.
yeah, so we all collectively chipped in for that. As our library tax,
It's library tax, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's $3 million a year.
it's a set percentage, isn't it? Set by the
1/3 of a mil.
1/3 of a
The
mil.
equalized valuation.
But I mean, the library gets $3 million a year, I believe.
It depends on the year.
Mhm.
Sometimes, they fluctuate based on the equalized valuation.
So we all have access to the library. It's very important to a lot of us.
Public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. For the convenience of our community, there is a remote option available. If you called in and would like to comment, please press *6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click the raise hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. Whenever an audience or committee member reads verbatim from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the Township Clerk's office at townclerk@millburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there is 30 seconds remaining. Each individual will be given 1 opportunity to make their public comment. Please be patient, and we will address each member of the public that wishes to speak. This is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly, and please do direct all comments to me. A reminder that we are all neighbors and personal attacks will not be tolerated. I will now open the public comment period.
Josh Shar from Living Hawthorne Road. I was pleased that Mr. Marazzi had responded to my question about conflict of interest and noted that his father was the expert. So I did the research and, quite frankly, your father was very impressive. He was the Republican senator for the state of New Jersey. He opposed welfare handouts, refused to impeach Richard Nixon, and if he was serving today, we call him MAGA Republican, I guess.
No, he would not. No, he would not. Excuse me for saying that.
The microphone's off.
He would not be a magna Republican.
I found an article, and I'll give you a copy of it, because it shows a photograph of your dad there, and you were in business with him at the time, from September 28th, 1972, 50 years ago. He was campaigning for a senatorial seat against a Mrs. Helen S. Minor, and the Democrat. He noted, that she was very attractive, and after a certain debate, he went over and gave her a kiss, and she in turn turned and kissed the moderator, which was kind of funny. But regardless, he did point out that she was conflicted, and because she was somehow had a post with the General Public Utilities Corporation. Ms. Minor chimed in and said, in the event that she is elected to the Senate, she would leave, to resign from that role, which is the appropriate answer. That application to Mayor Miggins would mean that Mayor Miggins would have left her practice because there would have been conflict, or at the very least recuse herself. But Mayor Miggins is more than just voting on these things. As mayor, she was able to choose the negotiating committee. She chose Richard Wasserman and herself. So effectively, she shepherded this whole thing through from the beginning, choosing, quote unquote, negotiating if there was any. And here's an absolute conflict over here, because it's beyond just voting. It's complete involvement, choosing of the developer. And I still stand by my position after reading what your dad said. And I think there is an issue. I would like to thank, and this, I hope this is on tape because you'll never hear this again, Diane Eglow for her posting of the letter stating that there is corruption on the part of Essex County Democrats, that they are choosing our contractors, which means that now I'm from Brooklyn, you get a piece of the action at that point. And that's a problem. That is a problem. I urge those members who will be in synagogue in a couple of days, standing in front of their maker, to search their souls and their conscience. And since, Diane Eglow's already started, it's really no problem for the two of you to step forward and to tell the truth as to what's going on over here in terms of any issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I like seeing
Nice.
pictures of my dad. There he is.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Phil. Live in Alexander, short distance. Regarding the agenda, consent agenda. This is the second meeting in a row where the minutes are being revised. Can you please tell the public why they were revised so we can follow it? Because there is a March 1 minutes on. I don't know what the changes are. I think the public's entitled to know it. I think we are entitled to know why resolution 22-216 was taken off. Does it have anything about the lack of not to exceed language in it? I'm happy that in the agenda that the availability of fund certifications are attached to all the resolutions. The bill list, I think we still have some same questions because there's a lot of costs regarding to the fair share housing professionals litigation. I think we should have like a running total of what we've been paying the professionals. Delegation of grant authority to the SID, again, that's an issue. Through Oprah, we found out that there's no written agreement between the town and the SID to monitor that grant. I applaud Councilman Viniak for going to a Rutgers seminar, because I think this is the first one I've noticed that there is an entry that a council member has gone for continuing education. A lot of this is about the narrative. The reason there was no tax increase was the Upton project came on line, that's a $75 million assessment that came in, and that caught a lot of things. In the newspapers and in legislature, there's certain issues that I think we should be addressing. I mean, the issue one about the increased municipal health insurance premiums, that's a big issue that's going throughout the state. What is our anticipated cost? And I think that's something that should be started to be discussed, how it's going to impact the employees and taxpayers. Also, there was an article, I think in the last couple of days, retirement vote payments to stop that. I don't know if we've had that problem because this year when the auditor came, really the citizens didn't have an opportunity really to question him about the findings that were buried in his footnotes. Again, we have an easy fast. Everyone to celebrate the holiday have an easy fast. Mr. Wasserman. I mean, at the last meeting, there was a report attacking me about the SID. There's certain questions that we have to talk about. The SID has problems. When it was approved, on less than 4.5 hours notice about who the appointees were, I made reference to a public notice that I can't find in here about Newark, where they're talking about award and representation. One of the most important cases you learn in law school is a case called Baker versus Carr. And Chief Justice Warren said that's probably the most important opinion from his administration, where it's one man, one vote. And one of the problems we have in the city is no representation from all the districts. They were hand selected by 2 people, not with any representations. And the idea that the resolution appointing the people only came on within less than 4.5 hours, that's an Open Public Meetings Act violations. And we've been fighting over this. Before we just heard about the fight over the leases. The leases have nothing to do about statutory construction. And at the last meeting, because you delayed the report, there's a new phrase in here. Conspiracy to shame. Last meeting, it became a question I was attacked. Then what happened at the meeting in front of the judge? For the 3rd time, the judge said, mediate, not litigate. There are serious statutory interpretation issues. The harassment of the URSOs is unbelievable. What their tax returns, their leases, and issues about something that happened 25 years ago, what that does to the validity of the SID. There's also a case I gave you sent to all of you about prerogative writs. The state has emphasized the importance of prerogative writ action. Discovery is very limited. It's supposed to be done by the judge. That did not happen in that case. Also, I sent you a copy of the Fair Share Housing Center report that came out last week. I implore everyone to read it because the Fair Share Housing Center accused the state of not complying with state law. It's key. And that goes back about the 20% setback, which we should have been, best practices we should have been doing years ago. Why it didn't happen, no one tells us. I sent you an opinion that came out today by the appellate division. I implore you to read it regarding Hopewell, because there's differences between that and what's happened here. It all goes back to the settlement. Did the public have a chance to approve, know the terms, and think about that? And that goes back to the last meeting. At the last meeting, there was a walk-on new business issue regarding the rabbi and allowing him to have the tent. I went back because there was questions about the settlement that was done in 2019. You can't find it on the website. There's a resolution, but the settlement isn't on there. I had to get through over. What was interesting, then Mayor Eglow abstained and recused herself from any consideration. That didn't happen last meeting. What changed in 3 or 4 years? Because one of the issues I've been always asking is if there is a settlement, is the public entitled to know the terms and to be heard before you consider it? That's basic municipal law 101. I'm aware of 4 situations that did not happen. We did not know about rooftop decks. I don't believe, based on the minutes, I don't think the terms of the settlement of the rabbi in 2019 was ever approved. We know what the issues as to the fair share housing. And then the question of Wells Fargo. There was a settlement, but it never came to the council, and never to the public what the approval was. Those are serious issues. And the question is, and it goes back to November 2020. Mr. Wasserman, he read a prepared statement at 10 o'clock in the morning at a closed special session we were rescinding a resolution to get new council. Ms. Prupus brought a resolution to have new council in September of 2020. That resolution was repealed. Will you promise that the town, that we would have competent and ethical legal representation?
Thank you, Mr. Feld.
David Morrow, One Ivy Terrace. I am an independent candidate for Township Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow.
You're welcome there. I have a general question. This is for my own benefit and also the benefit of a number of residents who've asked. I know we have two liaisons on the Township Committee who are in charge of overseeing and liaising with the Board of Education. I believe it's Mr. Wasserman and Mr. Vinayak.
This year?
Excuse me?
This year?
Every year, right?
It's Ms. Eglo and I.
Oh, it's,
Changes.
so it's no longer.
No, it's us.
Last year it was him and I.
Right,
This year is Ms. Eglo and I.
right.
You want to be?
I have not been invited to one Board of Ed meeting. Hello?
This is a classic example of what goes on up here.
Your question?
Actually, Ms. Mayor, we just received an invite today for the Board of Ed.
I'm going for the joint rec.
Okay, hold on. Mr. Morrow has the floor and his time is dissipating.
Yes, my time
Thank
is
you,
Wait,
sir.
no,
winding.
Okay,
Hold on, hold
Go
it,
ahead.
Sorry.
please. Okay, please,
Correction.
sir.
sorry.
I'd like to understand, and I think the residents would like to understand the school budget appropriation process. I know that it must be something that's reviewed by the liaisons at some point. How is this process completed? As my learned Republican opponents have pointed out, there's a potential for a 70% increase in housing units. And pursuant to the current zoning overlays, our school system will be overburdened. Have we as a township, examined pilot programs to help offset this? Cost of our school system may face in the future as a part of the fair share housing commitment. We as a township now pay over $40 million to Essex County. What real benefits do we reap from that? How can we reallocate some of those funds that will benefit Millburn and keep our educational excellence in place? We can attempt to be proactive rather than reactive this time. We have classic examples. We sold the Washington School for $1. We bought it back for millions. This is something we should try to avoid in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Just want to go to oh, okay.
Jean Pasternak, 342 Hobart. Ms. Eglo made a long presentation about safety around town. At the last meeting, various residents, including myself, raised the dangerous incident that occurred in Lot 14 at the pre-Oktoberfest event. It was a close call between a car driven by Mr. Miggins and residents standing in the lot. So I'd like to know who is looking at Lot 14 safety issues and what plans are in the works to calm speeding and make the lot safe for pedestrians, either on a daily basis or at these types of events. Streamlining is not always the best way to go in response to the other description that Ms. Eglo made this evening. When it comes to our zoning and land use ordinances, there has been a process in place to ensure our land use laws are adhered to and carefully weighed. Residents benefit from the deliberate process, and we don't want those safeguards compromised for expediency of new businesses that may or may not be present and operating in this town beyond a year or two. The open space tax that Ms. Eglo advocated for. I think it's an additional tax, clearly, that was not explained in the presentation fully exactly what it would cost our township by Ms. Patel. In fact, there was no financial information in that presentation. If you're advocating for new taxes, Ms. Eglo, we would like you to be clear as to what this will cost taxpayers of Millburn in a compounded look over a 10-year period or more. Every tax, pennies, dollars, whatever you want to describe, is a new burden foisted on the backs of already overburdened taxpayers in Millburn Short Hills. And I'd like to know if you looked at other ways to fund this idea of an open space fund other than increasing our taxes. This is from Mr. Mariziti. Could you comment finally, since it's been raised over the last 2 years, I believe, how you accepted $2 million of our tax money in fees paid to your firm when those fees were over and above the contracted amount in your annual contract, and it was not approved by the Township Committee? I listened to the hearing on Bear Properties, and it's become an embarrassment. Why are our tax dollars being used to pummel and harass a resident and business owner here for over 25 years? There are deliberate efforts being made to make that family feel completely harassed. This TC should be exercising their fiduciary oversight in this matter and stop pouring into this black hole of our tax dollars going to the Mariziti law firm. My last question or two are, what are the sources of funding in 2021? The Crescent Park Memorial, 9/11 Memorial, the Flex Parking Removal, and the Library Field funding projects. And also, what is the pre-SID 2020 Main Street closure and music costs and expenses? And the cost of maintaining, creating content and distributing non-cable access social media and Friday afternoon mayor announcement systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Jess?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Jerry Kung, 17 Lee Terrace. So I've heard from many residents in the past logging in remotely that it's very difficult to hear due to the ruffling of papers in front of microphones. And I'm glad to report that I'm able to experience this firsthand tonight. So for all of us logging in remotely, could you please mute your microphone while the meeting is going on, just so that we can hear everything in fine detail? Thank you very much. As for the report that Alex McDonald had reported last time about the missing toxicity reports related to soil borings 21 and 23, I did actually go back to look at the raw data file that the NJDEP procured for me on August 30th of 2022. And in the CD that they gave to me, there is a file, hzresult.txt, and it does in fact look like the toxicity reports for soil borne 23 were placed out of order. So the corruption was likely there. And so I thank you for pointing that out to me. I did go back and look, but the soil boring toxicity for SB21 is still missing. Notably, SB21 is right in the center of the known contaminated area at the DPW site. There is one toxicity report related to mercury, but that I believe is not particularly relevant for the type of contamination that the underground leaking fuel storage tanks, the soil is collected around there. I don't know if mercury is the proper test. I believe that there should be testing done of the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And those test reports are still missing from the hzresult.txt file that was submitted to the NJDEP. So my question to you tonight is, are there actually testing for polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons done for SB21, which is in the center of the contaminated area? If there is such testing, was that submitted to the DEP, and when was it submitted? And if in fact it was submitted, when will the residents of our town be notified as to the results of that testing? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Terry Urso, 514 Milburn Avenue in Short Hills. So for the agenda items, I have resolution 22-217. Can you please explain what's entailed and the location? It's a contract for the Glenwood curb cutout ramps project. Also, resolution 22-214 on the bill list. I'd like to recap Mr. McDonald's answer regarding bill list items. Today, another check made payable to Black River Design Company in the amount of $448, check number 32312, dated October 3rd. I was privy to an Oprah response of a bill submitted by the SID executive director addressed to Mr. Molman in the amount of $896. Such payments reference amounts of $448. August and again August, that was August 15th, and once again August 28th. Reference on the township's purchase orders number 8312022 and number 912022, both of which were signed by Jesse Molman, Mr. Matt Larissy, and Mr. Alex McDonald. Based on this Oprah, I'm hopeful Mr. McDonald will correct the record that in fact there were additional payments to Black River in the amount of $896 and not only $224. Like I stated, over $1,000. Why is the SID marketing director getting paid by the township? And wouldn't you want to know, Mr. Wasserman? I'd like to make a correction from my comment at the September 20th, 2022 meeting. At the July 9th, 2022 TC meeting, resolution number 2610-22, interestingly enough, sponsored by Deputy Mayor and approved by all for various improvements within Lot 14 in the amount of $400,000 and not $50,000 as I incorrectly stated. Why hasn't our Deputy Mayor ever addressed my pedestrian safety concerns? When can we expect parking permit fees for merchants and residents to now increase? January 2020, permits were increased by 100%. For years, I've stressed my concerns regarding pedestrian safety. Feel free to ask Mr. Gordon and Sergeant Eckley. I have never requested improvements amounting $400,000. Lot 14 is a serious problem as other areas all over town. My suggestions have been ignored, and this mayor has denied me the opportunity to a presentation regarding Lot 14, which brings me to Mr. Marazziti. During the same September 20th meeting, he used intimidation tactics towards the public for making what he considered defamatory statements. It wasn't the mayor at risk, it was residents attending a SID event. And Mr. Marazziti was diverting the facts by not addressing the public who were stating truth of what actually occurred. Right, Mayor? Moreover, Mr. Marazziti should have explained to the TC the township's liability in the event someone were to be seriously injured or even, God forbid, a fatality. Mayor, what is the proper procedure and protocol for TC and township attorney reports? Because on September 20th meeting, Mr. Marazziti stated he had no reports until after public comments. Mayor, should the mayor have afforded the public the opportunity to respond to all reports? Mr. McDonald, you also stated in your reports at the September 20th meeting that the property taxes have not increased. Can you explain if the Upton property is responsible? And is the SID assessment considered a tax? If yes, would you agree that property taxes have increased? Yes, taxes have increased for commercial property owners in 2022. So you got that, Mr. Wasserman? Lastly, what's the purpose of the local access channel? Well, to my understanding, it's to provide public educational and government information. I ask, who currently manages and monitors all township social media outlets, its posting, mayor message, Facebook page, etc.? Based on Deputy Mayor's concern about monies for utilizing our local channel, can you let us know how much does the township spend now for these services? And how much did it cost the township to outsource the local access channel services prior to 2020 when the channel went black? Really, what's the real reason behind the townships not to utilize their local channel? Is there any update on the monkey survey? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Souza.
Good evening, Onyo Walabi, 46 Maple Street. And
the mayor always want us to address who we are, candidate, Republican candidate for Township Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Olawale.
You're welcome. So my question is, I have two questions. So as a candidate, I would like to know what are the do's and don'ts when it comes to lawn signs? And do we have that on our website for everyone to see? I try looking for that because I would like to do the right thing, right? And then I would also like to underline the importance of what Mr. Jerry asked about. You know, we cannot be careful enough about the testings.
They didn't answer it.
Oh, she didn't hang up yet. Hold on one second. Sure. Can you hang up, Ms. Urso?
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you. So I would also like to, underline the importance of what Mr. Jerry asked about online just a few minutes ago. We cannot be careful enough about the testings of the dump site and the thoroughness and accuracy regarding the contaminants, level, the contaminants level that exists at the dump site. So I would like us to look more into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Olawale. I will now close the public comment period. Our professionals and committee members may directly answer any questions made by the public. Please only directly answer questions that you may wish to comment on, and do not request that of the other members or professionals. It's not a time for dialogue or debate. Members of the public may contact the township or township committee at any time outside of our business meetings. Thank you. I will start with our business administrator, Mr. McDonald. Are there any comments you wish to make?
I will answer a few of the things that had come up. The first is, in terms of the do's and don'ts of lawn signs, I think it's just important that when it comes to lawn signs, that they're not put on township property. The township of Millburn, its property. The right of way in front of homes is acceptable. But as far as how we quote, enforce lawn signs, is that if it's on municipal property, they will be removed regardless of or county property. We do not, however, police the state highway, which is,
No, I meant like on Glen Avenue,
Yeah.
side of the reservation.
Well, Glen Avenue, yeah, that's county property, right? But the Glen Avenue is not county road, but Morris Turnpike in particular, we don't enforce. The question regarding, or Ms. Urso's comment about the bills list, just to be clear, I was referring to what was actually on that bills list, which was one payment. I have no doubt that Ms. Urso is correct in her over request and finding out that information. But I just wanted to be clear that I was only commenting on what was in front of us that night in terms of the bills list. The other question was whether the Upton is the reason. And I want to be clear, I think at the last meeting when I stated the municipal tax portion did not increase, not making a comment that taxes didn't increase or a general comment, and whether the Upton is a reason. I think there are a whole host of factors that go into a budget, and to point to one particular reason is not, but certainly, yes, it helped, but I wouldn't say it was the sole reason. And just a comment on the school budget process. The municipality has nothing to do with the school budget process. We do not have any oversight or review of the school budget process. We are different in that way to a Summit or other municipalities, but we do not have any part in that process. As far as the Mott McDonald resolution, that was removed as a result of us not having received the pay-to-play documentation prior to the meeting. So once we receive that information, that is for construction management services of the drainage project on Ridgewood Road and Locust. And so once we receive the play to we'll make sure that's back on the agenda. And that's what I'll speak to tonight, but I will make sure that I answer some of these questions going forward on the 18th.
Thank you. Mr. Mariziti?
Yes, I have a couple of responses to make. First of all, thank you for the reminding me of my dad. I appreciate it. I can still read it. Of course, the issue with Mrs. Minor and the mayor are two different things entirely. But I did want to thank for the submittal of the Hopewell opinion that was right hot off the presses today from the appellate division. That was a case where a group of concerned citizens were challenging the Affordable Housing Settlement Agreement and raised notice issues, arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable challenges that the master plan and the changes that were made were arbitrary, unreasonable, and capricious, that there was not a proper statement of the reasons why it was adopted, notwithstanding that it was not consistent with the master plan. All of those objections by the plaintiffs were rejected. And the decision by the municipality was overwhelmingly affirmed by the appellate division. So turning next to the issue about the allegation that our firm somehow owes back to the township $2 million, I want to address that because that is totally an improper and incorrect allegation. I know that it's been made over a period of time, and it results from the fact that over time, the contract that engaged our firm set an arbitrarily low number each year for legal fees. That was not actually reflective of what the experiences were in prior years. And there was a requirement that in the contract that once we reached 80% of that number, that there should be a notice provided to the township. That notice was not provided during 2020. That was the year of the pandemic. And our belief is that in all the commotion at our office, that was the problem. But with respect to payments being made without authorization and illegally, that's wrong, because every bill that was submitted by our firm was approved by a vote of the township committee, every bill. So that is a misnomer. I'm happy to have the opportunity to clear that up. There was an allegation that the township is causing enormous expenses to be incurred and bills to be paid to our firm because of the Bear Properties litigation. I just have to say that the township is a defendant in that case, not the plaintiff. The plaintiff has brought that case and chose to bring that case. It doesn't matter if it's a prerogative writ case or whatever it is, it's still necessary for the township to defend itself in that case. And so that's why the fees are expended. I want to address also the allegation that I intimidated anyone who was making a public statement at this meeting. What I was attempting to do was to caution the speakers about what they may be about to say, because there had been an implication that bordered on the possibility of defamation if it was not true. Truth is an absolute defense of to defamation, but if it's not true, it's libelous. It could be libelous. And I make that comment not only thinking in terms of the speaker, but also thinking in terms of the township committee. I have been involved in defending a public body from a defamation allegation. Why? Because the public body allowed allegedly defamatory statements to be made at a public meeting. And so that is an obligation that I take seriously, and I caution anyone about getting near that line. And with respect to making my report making comments on the Bear Properties case after I said I didn't have a report, I was responding to comments that were made from the floor. If those comments had not been made, I don't think there would have been any reason to issue an report. And I have no further comment.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wasserman?
Yes, there are a couple things I'd like to touch on. Mr. Morrow brought up and Alex kind of addressed it, that we don't have any oversight over their budget, and we don't, if we don't even get a preliminary, we don't have anything to do with their budgeting process. But I do want you to know that during our after the settlement, and we had given Dr. Burton and our liaison team an update at all points in terms of what the numbers are, and they were fully informed in terms of what the settlement required. And I also want to address from last meeting, Ms. Olabi, during the negotiations that we reached out for Mr. Zaltzman to join our negotiating team. You seem to think that that was a misstatement of some sort. I recently got off the phone with Mr. Zaltzman to go over this, and he said that you're welcome to call him, and he can confirm this, that the invitation.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, I'm speaking now. Anyway, but this is my turn. Anyway, and he also provided the minutes where, and you were actually in attendance during when this happened, when he addressed this, and this was on August 23rd of 21. So, and it's here for you to look at. Anyway, so I just want to make sure that the record is clear.
Anything else?
Oh no, and then in terms of some questions that came up over SID payment, I think we can get back to that question, when we can get some detail.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Miss Olawabi, excuse me. This is a business meeting, Miss Olawabi. Excuse me. Miss Olawabi, this is a business meeting. Excuse me, please. Ms. Krupis?
I have nothing.
Nothing to say. Ms. Eglo?
Yes, I am not the Board of Ed liaison.
You're not on the
I didn't want to hear any papers wrestling. I am not Board of Ed liaison. I am just got a Zoom invite through the Joint Rec Committee. So it is Mr. Wasserman, Mr. Vinayak, correct? Am I the Board of Ed liaison with you, Richard? Sanjeev? No.
Yeah, just a correction. There are two boards. One is Joint Committee for Facilities, where Ms. Eglo and I am on the board. And there is Board of Ed liaison, where we do not discuss about their budget. We only talk about, and last time we talked about was shared services, how we can share the services between the two boards.
Okay, so just want to clear that up. The improvements to lot 14 are massive. There's a lot of improvements. So it's the repairing in the back, it's a lot of things. It's lighting. So it's not just a small project. And I think we said at the last meeting, it's gonna take a while to have it all approved. So I think you'll be happy, Perry, when that happens, but maybe not. As far as the cable, I still have never, in the years up here, gotten an email from anybody asking why we don't have a local cable channel. The monkey service will go out if people want it. I don't know, not one person seems to have cared about that. I think we brought on the YouTube channel, and that has given our residents a lot access to our meetings, the Board of Adjustment meetings, the planning board meetings were never recorded before. And it's important because people who are going to go before those boards, it's really a little nerve-wracking. So they can watch how the meetings are done and not just see the minutes, which, minutes are not a word by word review of what happens at any meeting. That's not what minutes are. So also we were saving a lot of money. Summit Hometown TV was charging us $500 per meeting. And I'm sure now 3 years later, it'd be a lot more than $500. I'll just. The open space fund, as you'll see later in the meeting, when we talk about our municipal buildings and facilities, it's really expensive to keep this town going. And we all are part of the process. And an open space fund will allow us to gather money with our, how we want to do things. So the county open space fund is 0.016 rate per 100. So I don't have the exact dollars, Jean. And we said very clearly that before this goes on, there will be public information sessions, which would go before a referendum. And the people will decide the same way when the county open space tax was a referendum, was passed overwhelmingly by this town. And maybe we didn't realize we weren't going to get anything back for that, but we're going to help all the other parks in Essex County. So yeah, I stand behind that. I believe Milburn, along with most of the other suburban towns, have an open space fund that they collect, and then they determine, but there'll be a committee to how that money should be spent and allocated. So I stand behind that, Jean.
Okay.
Okay, Jean.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Did Milburn vote on the county? We didn't
No,
have a
we don't
vote
have-
On the county
No.
open space, that was
It was a
decided
referendum years ago.
for the county.
It was a referendum years ago.
But
Yes.
I just have a question. So
Your mic's
towns in the county could have
Voted.
chosen not to pay, or every municipality in the county. And then the majority decided for the entire county.
That's right.
So Milburn really
But Milburn
At one-
voted
yeah,
for it.
Mil-
Yes.
did
Milburn
they
voted
vote for it, for the
Yes.
county tax? Do we know that for
Absolutely.
sure?
We could look it up, but I'm pretty darn sure.
Because we could have voted, the majority of people could have
What's it-
voted no, and it could have still
Had no
had
choice.
the majority of the county. I'm just,
So
I
why
don't,
don't we do the research? I don't know how to do that
Yeah,
research.
I'm just
Maybe Jerry
curious.
can do the
22
research.
towns are in the county.
yeah, no, I get that. I get that. But I'm just saying,
I'm
just
sure
because
he
we're
is.
in it doesn't mean that, I'm just curious.
You're just
Yeah.
curious.
Just
Thank you.
curious.
We'll find that out, what year it was done and how Milburn's percentage voted for that. And we should also find out, since it was done, how much we have actually put into that open space fund.
19, we had that. We said it last time, 19 million.
19 million, a lot of money.
But we are one of probably the only towns that doesn't have a county park.
Correct.
This is why we get no great new buildings. We
Correct.
do have a South Mountain
Mountain
Reservation and we
Reservation.
have a Locust Grove. If the county's listening, please.
Right, we could do
Could use some
amazing-
updating if you've been in
Amazing
there.
things at the
It's a mess.
reservation. Right.
Okay, so, Mr. Feld, yes, thank you very much. We're aware that the cost of healthcare is going up. Yes, we are. So they're working diligently on that. The minutes, Mr. McDonald, we had to revise the minutes because there was some glitch in the computer system.
Yeah, we had migrated to Microsoft OneDrive, and so there was some issue when those documents were being saved between the clerk and the assistant clerk that created the last version not to reflect the final minutes. So some of these are being revised as a result of that.
Ms. Urso wished to know about, so if you're listening, Ms. Urso, the project, the ramps that are being, ramp improvements in the Glenwood section, Woodland Road with Ridge Terrace, Ferncliff Terrace and Pine Terrace West, the intersections of Boltusroll Way with Woodcroft Place, Ridge Terrace, Overlook Terrace, Ferncliff Terrace, Pine Terrace East and Pine Terrace West, and the intersection of Pine Terrace East with Campbell Road. That. Answer these questions. Wrong signs. I think that's it. Okay. Township will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda? I have a motion to approve resolution 22-14 through resolution 22-219, except resolution 22-216, which has been removed from the agenda, which are listed on the consent agenda.
So, second.
Thank you. Roll call vote,
Oh,
please.
second, my mic was.
Yeah, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thought Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to old business. We are, first things first, dogs in Taylor Park. Chris, you're going to come on up and talk to us about the Board of Recommendations, the Board of Recs recommendation.
Chris Myers, Director of Recreation. Back in November, we started a pilot program for the dogs in Taylor Park. We started a walkway, put some paw prints on a pathway around the park. Tested it out for a 9-month trial to see how things worked out. Overall, it was very successful. We reported that to the Rec Commission, and there have been just a handful of issues with dogs off leash, which, to be honest with you, is no more than we would have had before the trial started. There's been no reports of aggressive dogs in the park during this time, which is probably the most important thing. And then also no poop found in the parks. We put up 2 stations of bags on both sides of the park, and the residents have been using them a lot, and it's worked out very well. So the Rec Commission voted 6-1 to approve a recommendation to update the ordinance to allow the dog walking path in Taylor Park.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Myers?
I have a question that's not exactly, first of all, I'm thrilled. I know so many people, this took also, things take a long time to get moved, and this is like an amazing thing for our town. So a couple of Saturdays ago, I was at the high school for the soccer games. And as I'm walking, after the girls were done playing soccer, I noticed there was a line of about 20 geese marching across the field in the back. So didn't Taylor Park, before we allowed dogs, hire dogs to come in and like run around in the morning? Is that, because the rec, joint meetings, is that something that could be done at the high school? Because you should have heard all the parents saying, yeah, the girls are sliding in this geese poop. So I don't know, maybe that should just
I
be.
can give the Board of Ed the contact for the Goose Busters and Goose Chasers. and two
Yeah.
different companies that help with that.
I think that'd be great.
Have the dogs in the park reduced the geese?
To be honest with you, I think they have possibly, or the Goose Company's doing a better job. But what Diane's talking about, we've had dogs come in the park in the past with these companies to chase off the geese.
Yeah, but I was just wondering if now we don't have to do that because we have the dogs in the park.
We still have to do it for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, it may
Nice.
help a little bit.
Okay, got it.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Thank you.
I just wanted to be clear, Chris, that this is for Taylor Park. only.
Correct. Taylor Park only, and only on the pathway that's designated on the map.
When do you start Deer Park now?
Baseball might not like
Takes time.
that.
So there'll be a resolution at the next meeting.
Yep, we will put a.
Is it an ordinance? An
Ordinance.
ordinance, so there'll be a time for public comment,
Yep.
and then if it passes, that sign will come down off of by the tree.
Right.
Got it.
The only thing I think we do need to make sure, and this is our DPW maybe, is to make sure that, the bags, we've had a couple of people say that the bags aren't filled.
I'd like to share that we've purchased over 11,000 bags in the
Wow.
last 9 months.
11,000 bags. So that's
We
1,000
better pass
bags
the resolution.
for more bags.
It's a
Okay.
small cost, so.
I know,
it's-
but so, and I just don't wonder, should we move, I'm just curious about this, should we move the bag stanchions into the park a little bit more rather than
Yes.
having them on the outside of the park?
Yeah, we discussed that at the meeting, so we're definitely consider that. I think it would be more beneficial to be further inside the park.
Okay.
And just to add to that, I did have a conversation with Public Works because right now, Brian Perez and the rec department handles sort of the refilling, but it was important to make sure that DPW also had a supply that they could refill when they're in the park emptying garbage cans and stuff like that. So now hopefully by attacking it from 2 angles, it'll be better.
I just have one question. Are there ever any towns that have a specific garbage can, as it were, just for dog waste?
As far as I know, just the ones that are attached to those containers.
Okay.
Right under the back.
Yeah, right under the
Okay.
bags, yeah.
Okay.
And do you need any more now that going forward, if it's permanent, do you need more signage or do you feel like there's enough?
I think
signage?
we would, we definitely would need to update the signage, maybe make it a little larger. Definitely would need more signage around the park.
Right.
Because right now it's just those two, just the entrances at the outside.
And is there enough? Yeah, so now that it's permanent, so let's say you need more signage, do you also need more supervision to make sure that with more dogs, you know, do you feel like you have enough coverage?
I think we have, I don't think more supervision than the current.
Okay.
I just think if you're getting new signage, maybe you can have a little sign, like a little politeness, like take only the bag you need.
We did add that.
You did add
Yes.
that, good.
Yeah, and that's
Because
helpful.
people.
Especially after the plastic bag ban, yeah. That-
I just want to say, my dog just turned 14 and he's doing all right, but he has never gotten to take advantage of dogs in Taylor Park, so. A little sad, because we started this when he was a little younger, but he's 14.
Thank you so much for coming this
Yeah,
evening.
thanks.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Thanks, Chris. We are going to the number 2. We have the for old business, Short Hills Train Station pedestrian safety improvements. Alex, do you want to say anything? Diane, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, this is also another thing that has taken a long time, but we had those 2 great meetings at the library. So this is a pretty detailed report here, and I did speak to Christine Bugle today, who actually was her initial, what do we call it?
Schematic.
Schematic. And actually Brightview actually went with almost everything 100% in it. I'm just gonna read, it's a long report. I don't know when it becomes available, but here's the existing conditions on the Chatham Road side. I'm just gonna read this one paragraph, proposed improvements. Conceptual improvement plans prepared by Milburn Township staff include roadway, sidewalk, and parking modifications with the overall intent of narrowing the cartway along Chatham Road to reduce vehicle speeds and improve vehicular and pedestrian safety. The plans also include a westbound drop-off lane for the train station separated from Chatham Road by a raised concrete island. Revisions to the parking lots on either side of the train station are included to better organize parking and provide additional parking capacity where appropriate. West of the train station, oh, so the picture's up there, thank you, Jesse. West of the train station, this is really important, a new mid-block crosswalk is proposed connecting the retail on the south side of Chatham Road to an existing walkway leading to the eastbound train boarding area. The mid-block crosswalk includes a raised concrete median island which serves both a pedestrian refuge and traffic calming features, forcing vehicles to slow down to navigate around the island. And there could be flowers planted in there. Parallel parking is proposed on both sides of Chatham Road in the vicinity of the new crosswalk, except for parking areas. So it's actually pretty complicated, but I think this is going to also beautify the area. There'll be lights, there'll be plantings. It's about safety. And I think anyone who's commuted at the Short Hills train station knows how cars just zip in, make a U-turn, make a K-turn. And Jesse, I don't know if you want to scroll in, but I think this is something the town's been asking for. And if all of these improvements go in, it's not even to break the bank. There might be some grants, but I think it's not about that. It's about providing a safety place, an organized place. And one of the most important thing is, why are the handicap parking spots across the street? When there's a few parking spots on the side of the train station building, those would be moved next to the building where it makes sense. It'll be a drop-off organized, and this is just something that, it's like common sense. You've got this huge wide boulevard. It's dark on a night like tonight where it's rainy. You can't see people. Everyone knows about the accident further down the street. So I think these are just some brilliant plans, and I don't know if it can be done this year because, as we say, you have to have first read, then you have to have a meeting in between, then you have to have second read. So I just hope who's ever up here next year, I hope it's me, I'm the independent candidate, that this does not wind up in the filing cabinet and this continues to be worked on. It's really important. So.
Didn't we agree on this?
Well, I don't know.
Meetings ago?
Agreed to bring it up.
We
agreed on this.
We agreed on getting the,
I mean, I think we should like move along with this and have
Yeah.
some information sessions to the public at this point and not wait for next year.
We had the information sessions. This all came out of the information.
I know,
sessions.
but that was like 3 years
That
ago.
was two-
and we
yeah.
need to do it again. I think it's,
Well, who can, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, who, with the design that you outlined, who did the design? This was,
Christine Bugle did it, and then Brightview reviewed it and has a very, very multi-page detailed report, even with the dollar amount. So, I mean, in my opinion, I think this is ready to bring to the township committee and move it.
I think we need to bring it to the public.
I do as well.
Yeah, but could
And talk
Christine,
about it.
maybe, but it would be great to have Christine kind of present it, or a professional, like a design person, kind of walk through it with slides. I mean, this is very hard to tell what you're
It is
touching
hard.
on.
Jesse, just like zoom in a little more. It is very hard, like eastbound, westbound, north side, south side. I mean, it's not like intuitive.
Like
which
on all
is
the
which.
improvements, it'd be great to say, okay, here's one improvement,
Mhm.
here's the
Yeah, they
next
just-
improvement.
Can we do 2 information sessions at the library again this fall / into winter? And that way we'll have
Mhm.
some information, and then hopefully whoever is sitting up here next year will, and
Take
if the public wants it to be done.
Yeah, I think the point of this, which was, the committee had authorized previously, was to sort of bring additional information to you, cost estimate, any changes that Brightview may have. And one of the things they did change was the design of that mid-block crossing to be a dog-led crossing as opposed to just straight across. I think that at this point, certainly having Brightview and Christine be a part of some information sessions would be I think.
Because we have all of October and some November before we hit the holiday season.
And is there a budget for it?
There, but there's no, I mean, they estimate the cost of this to be just under $400,000 for all these improvements. In terms of Brightview, it's the hourly rate that we pay them for their services, their contracted services for the year
And
to do
how,
this presentation.
and how would, and if we approved it sooner than later, how would the funds be allocated? Would it just become from?
It would be, you'd have to do a capital ordinance or a bond anticipation note. Yeah.
We would go out for bid, open public bidding process,
Any
right?
grants?
So this type of project is ripe for grants. I think and just so everybody understands as well, we have applied for a grant for this particular project before and did not receive it for Safe Routes to Transit grant. We can certainly do that again. I just hesitate sort of, not doing something, as you're waiting for grants. Also getting to a point where you have construction documents or a much more conceptual design of this also gives you a shovel-ready project, which we get asked quite a bit. Hey, Melbourne, do you have any shovel-ready projects? There's funding available in this or funding, but we don't have shovel-ready projects. So this could serve as one of those.
But theoretically, if we all agreed on it, kept moving, we could do this
Sure.
like next spring, summer.
Right.
And permits, as we learned at the last parking committee meeting, parking permits are on the increase.
Mhm.
So will be revenue coming in from that, but more importantly, there's bodies using this train station. Really important
You
stuff.
may also want to think about when it's when the construction is done, to do it on a lighter time of year,
August.
maybe
August.
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 Yeah, maybe we would do the construction during August when people are away, not during Christmas or, I don't know, during busier time.
Great, so
Good
So
stuff.
information sessions, right?
Yeah.
Set up.
2 information
Great.
sessions to set up for that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And it's a good point, Tara, that there are so many new residents since 3 years also.
Totally. Yeah, no, you have to,
Good point.
yeah. That's awesome.
Okay, great.
Right.
Next, we are going to the JFK cell phone tower update. Ms. Leglo, you requested that this matter be added to the agenda.
Yes, thank you. So Alex, did you have a chance to speak to that, Christian?
I did actually.
Okay, can you give
Just
us?
today.
Okay, because I didn't have a chance. I mistakenly told him it was tomorrow night. I forgot we're Monday, so
Holiday,
that
yeah.
kind of pushed your, thank you for talking to him.
I spoke to his last name escapes me, but his first name was
Hildebrand.
Chris. Yeah, Hildebrand, yes. Regarding what they call macro site in terms of a tower. He had a lot of really good information. I had to sort of limit the conversation to a certain degree, as they may end up being a potential bidder in all of this, but certainly in understanding the space and understanding how these things work, it was a beneficial conversation. What he had expressed to me was that it is important that when doing a bid specification, that we consider, the goal of this, and, is the goal to ultimately improve service throughout the municipality or throughout the area that would be, touched by this project. Is the goal revenue, is the goal, and keeping that in mind as you develop the bid specs. He did mention a little bit more about how the height of the pole will be probably a little bit larger than anticipated because of the topography in that area, as well as the desire to make sure that all carriers can get on the pole at a height that would benefit their service. And I think he kept bringing up the word choice. You want your residents to have choice in who's being put on that pole. If you just put it at a certain height, then it becomes a sort of just one carrier's pole. So it was a very good conversation. I think, it's certainly from a standpoint of that JFK site, I think there's what's important, kind of first and foremost, and it is also what is the plan for that particular site, and how does the committee feel about whatever that plan might be, and the presence of a cell tower there as well. Certainly from the cell tower world standpoint, municipal property is where they want to be. It's easier for them, zoning requirements and different things like that. It's a much easier way to go. So it was a fruitful conversation. He also expressed that he may have the ability to get some information about the area in terms of how many complaints the carriers are receiving, how many drop calls are receiving, and get some more sort of data analytics for the area. So.
Right, so because it was 2 weeks ago, I went to the Short Hills Association dinner, and we sat at different tables of like 5 or 6 people, and I can't remember who was sitting behind me, and I overheard him talking about how he's got no cell service. And as we all know, all our candidates were dropping signs everywhere, and I'm going around town, my calls were being dropped in different parts of town. So it's not, I have good service in South Mountain section, so none of I think I'm doing is for me personally. This is for the residents, and I think this guy, Christian Hillebrand, they actually put up the tower. It's not owned by Verizon or T-Mobile, so they are actually the contractor of the tower. They get the permits, they do all the investigation, and he also has a lot of information and articles that he shared with us that we can share with the community about the safety and the concerns that I know some residents have. So, these are things that I can ask Jesse, I don't know, you or Christine, to put those links to the articles on the website. Would that be possible? I didn't look at them all.
Yeah, I think we also have to have a sense of where all this is going. Certainly, if we're presenting a cell tower and there's concerns about safety, then we can utilize information. And as some of you may recall, we had explored the possibility of a cell tower at the fire department, and we had brought in an individual from Drexel to present to the township committee on the safety of cell towers. So, also being able to potentially dig up that report. In terms of what they did. But
I think the problem with the fire station was the visual of where it was.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
There were plenty of reasons.
Yeah.
I have a question about this. The height of the pole is going to be larger, is what he's saying, based on the topography.
Yeah.
Originally, when they came to us, they wanted, 300 feet?
So the model that I had seen in other bid specs, as well as in speaking in other communities, was about 300 square feet.
Okay.
In speaking to him, it was, he had mentioned that they actually, in some cases, want a pad for each carrier. So that can significantly increase the footprint of a tower.
Like how much of a footprint? How much of an increase?
I think
1,000?
No, I think it would be a little bit less than that. Maybe like a 50 by 50 space, like 2,500.
25. So he's gone from 300 to 2,500.
Well, he hasn't. I mean, he's just the conversation about the subject matter. It was that, originally, like if you're having a monolithic pole with one carrier, you could probably get away with 300 square foot, and then, but if you're going to have multiple carriers on the pole, which, again, in that conversation with him was about choice and giving your residents choice, then you may be looking at a desire from those carriers to have their own space within that footprint.
It's a lot
So
of
that,
square footage.
that area,
Mhm.
priority wise, again, there are different priorities with different council people here. And my priority there is the field. I cannot jeopardize that. At least my vote is for that. And then plus the DPW site, that whatever we have to move from here. So that comes second. I am all in favor of improving the network, but not at the cost of field or DPW site. They can go to any other private spot and put their towers there if needed. They will make the money and networking company will pay them as well. So that is on the priority scale again. Whenever the tower discussion have come up, I always ask, where are we with the total plan?
Okay, good to know. So
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Wasserman or Ms. Prupus, any comments, suggestions?
No.
2,500
Square
from-
feet
That's a very big,
jump.
Yeah.
that's a very big jump. And, you know, I think that, listen, we definitely need better self-service. Everybody, we all acknowledge that. But, you know, I think we should see, you know, if they want a 2,500 square foot thing there, maybe we should see a picture or a diagram of what it is and where it's going to be. And, you know, before we actually approve it. But 2,500 is a big number.
Because we have that limited space.
That's right. The
Overall,
space is
yeah.
limited.
So it would be, so how high would the thing be?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
whatever.
I think it depends, but it could be I mean,
And it doesn't need multiple carriers.
Doesn't
So we could
necessarily-
use
Yeah,
one. I
maybe-
mean,
yeah,
then it
maybe
could
we
be
should-
whatever.
Maybe we should
wanted it
keep
to
that
be
in
if
mind. Maybe
anybody
we should
wanted
scale the
anything.
thing back
If we're gonna do it.
if we're gonna do it. Right.
Okay,
Well,
so
would this start with RFQs? How would this start? Even if if 3 people wanted it, how does it even start, Alex?
well, this is actually a bid process.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's not like a, you create the bid specs that sort of outline to Ms. Prupus's point, outline what you want. And then you receive bids on it.
So
Yeah, so.
why don't we see, why don't we do a straw vote and see if anybody's interested in pursuing this?
Well, I have one other question before that.
Sure.
If you, I mean, I think we all can agree that there's issues with self-service in Short Hills. Yes?
Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
As much issues as field.
Yeah, no, forget the field. I know you want the field. Let's just talk about self-service, that there's an issue with self-service and dropping calls. I mean, I get it all the time when I'm driving around, like if,
On Old Triple
Sure.
Road.
what are the other, forget this tower. Are there any other solutions other than people putting private cell towers
In their
on
homes?
in their homes? Like, what else could we do about the poor service in Short Hills? Alex, is there
Yeah.
anything else to
I
even
mean-
be discussing before we even talk about?
They're from what the municipality can do.
Yes, what the municipality can do.
Yeah, there's not, what we have control over is we have control over our land. And the ability to put, you know, cell towers on our land. You know, the idea is that, you know, I think what people have seen is that in some places, and not particularly here yet, but, you know, the small cell technology has, you know, is how some are deploying their 5G technology. Again, to what that means. But as far as what the municipality can do, we only have control over our land.
And putting up a cell tower somewhere.
If we want to.
If we want to, I got it. I was just wondering if there's any other options other than the cell tower, and there's no other place to put the cell tower.
And I think there's a degree of this, I mean, I wouldn't say that. This is just the place that we were initially approached about. I wouldn't say that necessarily, but I think it certainly is, you know, again, and I'm not speaking to what the desires and wants of the committee are as a whole, but from the standpoint of where it would be received, this is.
Where it would be received because
well,
we have the
it's a-
land or because it would affect,
Because we have the land, because the
how-
poet section, I think, has been one of those areas that has, you know, complaints, but you know, all of those things would factor into it. But from my standpoint, or from the standpoint of what the municipality can do, I mean, there was also the discussion I think, in previous meetings about, what's happening on top of that building with additional carriers and additional cell, those types of things are going to be, if we're concerned about cell service, those types of things could be things that are more necessary.
And those cell towers that are going up on top, I mean, could that potentially solve the problem in Short Hills?
Most likely not. The topography of our community has always been a challenge, even when it came to radios for, public safety. You had certain repeaters in different places and things like that. So the topography will always, be a challenge here.
I wish we had I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, is there any way that the Short Hills Mall is obviously private property? They went through a variance procedure to get solar panels. So right now, I know a lot of people were kind of shocked what went up on the corner of Milburn and Main, private property. They sold their roof rights. Shocking, how, I don't know. I don't, we're not part of the Board of Adjustments, and that's where that got approved.
Wasn't that a modification? Wasn't there stuff, or there was already
Yeah.
towers up there? So then there's
They
the
moved it.
law about
Yeah,
modification, which is what we've been talking about.
so they moved it to the front of the building's roof, though.
Right, they modified it, so then they were allowed to modify it.
So are we at risk of more buildings doing that?
If they currently have,
Mhm.
yes.
Well, I think it's something we definitely.
Just to let you know, I did a lot of research on that.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No.
I appreciate this, but there's no public comment. There's no public comment. Ladies, there's no public comment right now. I'm sorry. This is, excuse me, Miss Best.
Tara asked me to provide for you.
We'll talk to you after the meeting. We could talk, we'll talk to you after the meeting. Miss Best, we'll talk to you after the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. We'll talk to you after the meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
So I
guess
think what we would like
research.
to do is there consensus to do research on this? Is there consensus to keep this I'd like to, everybody do a straw vote. Sanjeev?
No.
No. Diane?
Absolutely, it's for the
Diane is
residents.
yes. Tara?
So I think that there's an issue with cell service in Short Hills for sure.
Okay.
And if there's a way for us as a municipality to do something about it, I would like to. I'm not committed to it being at JFK. I totally get your, and I'm
No, I
with you
agree with
about the
what you're saying
field. The
too,
field
yeah.
sounds great. We should have more fields for sure. And if we can put
No,
one
I
there.
agree with you, what you're saying. Tara.
So, but I don't know, like, how do we get away from just that site, or how do we figure out what other solutions are, if there is anything? Maybe Alex, I would suggest maybe you do some work around it. That's my suggestion.
I also agree with Tara, but in a little different. I feel like the committee needs better choices. Like we just don't have, I wish there was a technical person, an engineer type person that would come here and say, okay, Township Committee, here's some new choices for you.
New
to choose from.
technology.
Here's a menu of
Solutions.
Here's some solutions to this challenge to the township. And it's not just, it doesn't fit in one box, but here's the way I see it. And here's A, B, C, D. These are some choices for you. I don't feel we have those choices right now.
So would we have to enlist a consultant to help us get through that process, Alex? Maybe that's the thing, hire a consultant.
I mean, it's
whose
a very
expertise is
important
in this.
issue.
It's hugely important, correct,
It's an
Richard?
important issue, but I don't feel like we don't have all the answers here.
Okay. So we need more answers. Sorry.
Choices.
Thank you, Sally.
But with
Okay,
that,
great.
More work for you, Alex.
That's
Wait,
right.
wait, one more work for Alex, would that be going out and putting an RFQ or an RFP for consultants? You can't research this.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
you're right. I certainly do not have the knowledge and space to be able to say, yeah, this is how you can solve this problem. So I think you would need to, and this would be an RFQ and RFP to find
RFQ.
it. To find
Cell
a
tower, technical.
not even sell, just sell
What
service.
about before
Sell
we
like a
even
cell
go to the
service audit.
RFQ, you do some research on what's even available?
Sure.
Because to tell us, hey, these different people who would even be responding to the RFQ.
Sure.
Great.
Maybe they can.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Terrific. So now we're going to go to new business. Ms. Prupus, you asked that we put on the agenda the Affordable Housing Citizen Committee.
I did, and
Please.
and we all received, as you mentioned, we all received the letter from Dave Cosgrove
Mhm.
about this. And it seems from all the conversation that we've all had, everyone agrees that, and maybe we all agree at different stages at which this Affordable Housing Citizen Committee should start working and what they should be addressing. But I think we can all agree that we need to get something going in terms of the next round, which is 2025. And working on that. I also think, I would like to see the committee kind of be able to jump right into what we're dealing with now. And so I just want to open that up to, Committee Vinayak, I know you just want the committee, I'm assuming just the committee to be for the next round. So and maybe we can have a conversation about this and figure out where everybody stands, at least to start something.
So what is it you want then? I'm not.
Well, I want to
quite-
know I want to have a discussion about it. So I want to know how everybody else feels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we all know that many of us feel that we were left out of the negotiation process. I believe it was brought up in the audience before. I was not in the negotiation process. I believe we had a gun to our head to accept it as it was, and Tara and I have twice tried to get another committee member to reevaluate things. And I think if we have a citizens committee, that it could be a great way to finally hear back. And I think it was Princeton who actually had different like civic associations from like representatives from each neighborhood being a representative after they would interview their community members, and they would come back as a task force, and we would have open meetings, but we might have like representatives to help us say, listen, this isn't going to work in our neighborhood, but not one neighborhood should be bearing the brunt of the whole fair share housing commitment. There has to be a better way. It has to be done with planners, it has to be done with land use attorneys, it has to be done with people who know. Nobody in this room, people who have come to meetings or us, are professionals at this. So we have to really find the best professionals who are going to put Millburn's, Short Hill's interests at the forefront. And that really means going out to the community members. And that is, I believe, really important. And even before 2025, and Tara, you brought this up a while ago, why are we not addressing 25? But we have to deal with what we have in front of us. And I believe hearing from the community is definitely the direction we should be going.
Mr. Wasserman, do you have anything to say?
I think a citizens committee would be great. I mean, I've certainly spent a lot of time on this. I think a citizens committee would be wonderful and expansive, and I do think that if I think that it has to be representative. But I think from the committee, our committee point of view, I think it's kind of like everything else we do. Somebody, one or two people have to take the lead to interview people and to look at resumes and to talk to people that are interested and to come up with a informational sheet over what's expected and and start working on it. And I would think that you'd want to implement that maybe for the beginning of the year. Maybe for the beginning of the year, it would be you form a committee and maybe a subcommittee. Mayor would appoint it, but somebody among us or two people among us should be the lead people that start interviewing people and make that way when then the next year rolls around, we have recommendations of people to appoint. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 2025 to 2035, we are again up against the wall. We want to be proactive and get that committee formed. But for current one, I don't see that we have options there. And again, there are 2 TC members who feel that way. And I gave them that option in a couple meetings ago as well.
You did?
If they want to take a lead, they can, but
I would. I need a new attorney though, so I could put a motion on that we fire Ed Buzak.
Let's
And we
stay on
should-
focus.
Well, I mean, no, I'm being serious. I mean, if you're giving me that opportunity for real, and I appreciate it, but I need a new attorney.
You can do whatever you want.
Well, no,
but
well,
you
I can't-
You put it on the table first, fire the attorney, and the compliance hearing was in 15 days. You can go to a compliance hearing without an attorney.
Well, then it got pushed back to the end of
Well,
October.
it
It could get
wasn't-
pushed back to the end of December. I mean, I would love to get a new attorney.
But coming back to your point, I would say next 25, next year, we can start that committee. Thank you.
We're talking about the citizens committee.
Yeah, citizen committee.
So, and what do you think?
I think the Citizens Committee is great, and I hope that you'll set it up. And then maybe set it up almost like like we do. In fact, it's October, so we'll start putting out to ask people to volunteer, submit their volunteer forms for planning and zoning. There's many opportunities to volunteer in the town. And we'd really love it if everybody would, put in their forms to do that with planning and zoning and environmental. There's great committees. And this could be another committee that could be headed up. And I think that would be great if you take it over.
Well, what I would like to see happen is to have a community discussion about what this community committee would look like.
Yes.
So, and I mean, am I doing this alone or you're, I mean, I think that we need to have 2 township committee members.
Won't be alone, yeah. It needs to be 2 members of the committee, yeah, I agree.
Who else wants to volunteer for it?
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna be sitting.
You
up
could
here
help me
next
set
year.
it up. I
can
mean,
help
we
you.
could at least
But
have
Tara,
it.
I definitely would help you, but we cannot risk what happened with the flood mitigation committee, that we picked good people and then we had a political push off of who we are. So we have to, what does that mean?
Lights.
So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely talk to you about that. We could find out how Princeton did it, because I know they had, we have a South Mountain Civic Association, we have a Hobart Civic, we have a Short Hills, we have to have like representatives from the neighborhoods. And I think they could be best at maybe picking who they want to send to the committee as it forms.
Well, I don't think the civic associations should be like,
Well, no,
I mean,
not
I don't.
specifically one of them, but I'm saying.
I mean, I just think it needs to be open to the
No, I
entire
know, but
community.
maybe they can also help bring people to the meetings.
All right, so what I'm thinking is that you and Alex, are you in? So we're.
How much more are we putting on his plate?
So, in terms of like holding a few in town hall sessions about conversations about what this committee is going to look like, and then what are going to be the mission of the committee. I mean, Alex, what do you think?
This is not my decision.
No,
Yeah,
okay.
then
Well,
whatever you guys decide.
yeah, no, I mean, I am requesting your help in doing this as our business administrator.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we will figure that out and get that out to the community and work together to figure out what this citizen committee on affordable housing will look like. Diane, does that sound good?
Yeah,
to
and
you?
maybe Dave Cosgrove could meet with us.
Totally.
Because he brought this up to the public, and there's a lot of people I know who could be interested.
Yeah, great. And then we can bring that back to this committee.
Correct.
And it would be something to form a new committee. We have to do that how?
Like any other committee.
Well, I remember PSAB was an ordinance.
Depends what type of committee.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's good. Depending on
I mean, this is going to be a standing committee though. I mean, if we're talking about 2025, that's so.
That'd be by ordinance, not resolution.
Right.
So you could start it initially, it could be a standing committee when you're set up, but I'm cutting. But before you get set up, while you're planning it, it just be a.
Well,
Joe,
no,
could
the
you
planning
help
of
us?
it to form a standing committee. So we got it. We'll bring it, we'll figure it out.
And we'll talk to Joe.
Yeah, I think you want to figure out the mission and then you can come back in from that.
Yeah, but I think we can't figure out the mission without the rest of the community input.
Yeah,
So
understand.
I think we got a plan.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank
Starting
you.
point.
Right.
Perfect. Ms. Purpose, you asked to bring up the Charter Commission.
Did you guys all get a chance to read the Charter Commission?
No.
Did anyone get a chance to read it?
I did not. I'm
Okay,
too
it was in
busy.
the packet, so it's gonna be kind of, I guess, hard to have full discussion if you can read it. Did you read it? You did?
I did, I promise.
Oh, cool. No, I just want to know who read it and who didn't.
I did look at it.
So it's pretty amazing, and Jay Morale brought it to our attention at the last meeting. And basically in in 1972, this was the results of the commission. So I wasn't even born yet. And they evaluated the form of government in Millburn. And I think it's time for us to do that again. And in order to do that, and Alex, actually, you might know how this works, but we have to have a referendum to even have a charter commission.
That's correct.
So that means that this couldn't be done without a vote by the entire community in a similar manner to the open space tax fund, not tax, open space fund. So a group, I couldn't tell, is the charter commission, they said that they were elected, but did they really mean appointed or were they elected? On that vote, did it have who was going to sit?
Once the commission makes a let me back up.
How is the commission?
The commission is authorized by a referendum, as you said.
Right.
I haven't done the research to get to the point of how the members of the commission are selected. But after they report, like this happened, then there's another referendum. And that referendum, in this case, I understand, failed, which means that you can't bring up another one for 10 years after that failure. And when that referendum is put on the ballot for the approval of the new form of government, there are candidates that are identified at that time to take the seats on the new form of government if it is approved. So that's kind of all in one shot at the end of the process. Your question is at the beginning of the process in terms of selecting the members of the commission.
Of the charter commission, it does the study.
Yes, and I'll
It was-
research that question. and
Okay,
get
so
back
it
to
was, I think the study took 9 months to do. And they came up with recommendations, and it's really interesting to read about what our community was talking about 50 years ago and some of the similarities that we're still talking about now. And so they recommended that and Alex and I just had a quick conversation about this beforehand, but at that point, 50 years ago, the TC members were really involved in the day-to-day operations. And so they did this commission recommended that more of the tasks be put on the manager and redefined the role of our business administrator to look like what it looks like today, and really removed, because it's not our role and responsibilities to do the day-to-day operations. That falls on Alex McDonald and then the entire department heads and all the staff of Millburn Township. So in New Jersey, there's 560, how many?
564.
564, and there's 12 different forms of government. And so I know that this is called the Faulkner Act. I guess that allows the government to be chosen by the municipality through this process. Is that correct?
That's the purpose of the commission, to make that recommendation, propose a new form of government and put that up for referendum. And at the same time, candidates are proposed, and those that receive the top 5 on the ballot become members of
The Faulkner Act is the enabling legislation.
Yeah.
So,
right.
And then in the report, they go through the strength and weaknesses of form of the township government, and then the alternatives that were considered but not recommended. And one of the recommendations that was never implemented, I just would like, was talked about partisan elections. And I'm just gonna take a moment to read this out because I think it is really important. So 2 paragraphs. Under the present system, a voter must disclose party affiliation in order to cast a meaningful vote, since for all practical purposes, the elections are decided at the primaries. Those who choose to vote in the primaries must adhere to a single party. Thus, a Democrat, and just remember at this time, the municipality was Republican in its political party. A Democrat who wished to express a preference for presidential candidate in the most recent primary was barred from expressing a choice on the 3 candidates running for the Township Committee. This is a form of a de facto disenfranchisement. The Charter Commission, as well as those interviewed, felt that party politics serve no useful purpose at the local level, especially in a community with a population as homogeneous as that of Millburn. The issues concerning our township are matters which involve budgets, facilities, future plans, and the like. None of these are concerned with national, state, or county politics, and it is our view that it is a mistake, therefore, to tie our township elections to these broader political organizations. Under our present system, the voters of Millburn Township have little choice in the selection members of the Township Committee. At present, nomination by the Republican Party is tantamount to the election. This means that the Democrats and Independents have virtually no opportunity to serve or to be represented by some of similar persuasion unless the elections were changed to a ward system or some form of proportional representation. The Charter Commission rejects both of these alternatives because it felt that a better way to accomplish the same result would be to offer the opportunity to vote for a town council through nonpartisan elections. So I just thought that was a really interesting recommendation, and I urge you all to read this Charter Commission report just to get some history of the township. And I also think that it is time for us to have another Charter Commission report. So I just wanted to bring this to the TC and see if you wanted to have a discussion about it.
Bravo. I think that was a brilliant paragraph you just read. And I think now today we are seeing that just the opposite is true as far as the situation is the same, but it's a different party who is selecting your candidate by default. So I think it's definitely something we should be looking at.
So I think,
Mr. Vinayak? Any thoughts? Oh, your mic's off, I'm sorry.
did you read the report?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, Ms. Professor, I read it. I feel wherever you stand, whatever your alliance is, you, by nominating a party, you're trying to disclose where you stand. If you're nowhere in the stand, you can run as an independent candidate. So you don't get a chance to meet with 20,000 people. But with the voter form, you can assume where you lie and where you stand for. Similarly, for voters, if they're Republicans, they can vote for Democrats. Democrats can also vote for Republicans. It could be either way.
But not in a primary.
So,
and not, so meaning like, if you want to vote for a Democratic president, but you don't want, but you want to engage in the Republican primaries, you can't do that with our system. It is so limited.
I'm one of those people in there that rejected that. So I would say if your alliance lies wherever, so my alliance lies with the Democratic Party. So I aligned myself with the Democratic Party and ran on it. So similarly, if you're able or if you want to follow a Republican party candidate, you could probably change your alliance too in the Republican Party, even in the primary side. But whatever you want to do, it's totally up to you as a voter or as a candidate, both. So I actually feel the current way of doing the voting is what I feel. I'm actually being truthful.
And what about the rest of the government? Forget the nonpartisan part. Like, do you think that this is the most effective form of government? Our
You know, it's
three-year
the
terms are
perception.
having the
Yeah.
TC select a mayor, like,
See, it's your thought process versus my thought process is the perception. I cannot change your thought process. I wouldn't even want to change your thought process. And they're same way,
but
there are
would you
voters.
be willing to bring it to the voters?
Well,
Would you be willing to have a public process to bring and let the voters choose?
again, you can put pressure on me. What I told you just now, my
I'm
stand
not
is where I
pressuring you, I'm
stand.
asking you, would you just, like, would you be, I have an opinion, you have an opinion,
And I told.
and
you
we
my opinion.
disagree.
Yeah.
Mr.
But would you
Wasserman,
bring it to the voters? Would you let our community choose the form of government that they want to have?
The way you're putting it, you're trying to put words in my mouth and
Oh,
my
oh
answer
my
is
God, it's just a
actually.
question. We're cool.
Yes or
Ms.
no?
Prabhas,
Mr.
Yeah,
Wasserman.
would you?
I mean, I
Yes?
said,
So you would?
I am happy with the way the
But
government
would you
is.
bring it to the people? Would you bring it to the entire?
I think
you
I was
would.
able to answer my.
So I think
question.
he
Mr.
said he
Wasserman,
would.
no, he didn't.
Oh, wait, but he just did. He said he would let the people decide.
I don't think I said that.
Oh, you wouldn't let the people, oh.
I
Mr.
said I'm
Wasserman.
happy with
You
the
said that
way
you
the
would-
government is
excuse me.
right now.
Wait, we're not
Where-
done yet. Who are you to interrupt us? We're having a
All right, Ms.
discussion.
Prabhas,
He just
I
said
need
he
a
was
comment from my
finished.
side.
Wait, what?
No further comment from my side.
Now we're done. Mr. Watson.
Finished. Mr. Wasserman,
I don't know if I can follow that.
I do.
Anyway, so kind of further to what Mr. Vinay said, to be honest and straightforward with everybody, I'm a happy Democrat. I
But it's
believe.
not about you, it's about the entire community.
Let me finish,
Yes.
please. Let me, and I understand, I did read the report. But I did read the report. Thank you. But I am a proud Democrat. I believe in Democratic Party, and I know nothing is perfect. I know it's, the system may not be perfect. So I wouldn't want to change it.
okay, so
Okay.
let us do, let's.
I know, we
excuse
should
me,
have a
excuse me.
referendum.
So I'm going to ask for a,
Wait, I'd like to make one more comment. I think we all know that many people who have run and who are running have changed their party to run. So I think if we could make this a nonpartisan local election, you can still get support from your party if you're a diehard Dem or diehard Republican. But you should be able to run on a line like the Board of Ed. Everybody,
One of the weaknesses
Yeah.
of the township committee
Yeah.
forum that they talked to, scarcity of candidates.
Correct.
Who wants to run if they have to go to the committee chairs of the
You're in
two
charge
parties
of
in town
society.
and kiss the rings?
There are
Excuse me?
there are
Who wants
six
to do that?
six candidates running for 2 seats. There are 3 candidates running for Board of Ed for 3 seats. So
okay,
just so
so
you know.
I'm going to make a suggestion that right now, excuse me, I'd like to end
Maybe I'm not
discussion.
finished, Mayor, I don't want to finish the discussion. I want to say that people change their parties. And as Ms. Prupus said, that, to have to go, and I think Jeff and I had a little bat online that he had an hour interview with the Dems and I had 5 minutes. So, I think it was very clear how you have to be picked by the party if you want to run. And we all know, no matter if you are in local, Congress, Senate, presidential, you have the benefit of the party line of the party in power. And I don't believe that is actually to the benefit, without reading the report, I know it's not the benefit of our local elections where we talk about budgets and flood management and Short Hills train station improvements. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican living in Short Hills, you want a safe train station. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat in South Mountain or a Republican in South Mountain, you want flood management. And whoever owns the stores, I don't know if they're Democrats or Republicans, they want flood management. So I think it is time to relook at that local politics should not be party-based and you have to be hand-chosen. And that's what I say.
And Maggie, I think you should read the report, especially because you're super into history of our township. This is amazing, amazing. You should read it.
Can I have a vote count? Let's just decide consensus.
What? I
17.
think it's very clear that you want a vote for this.
Well,
What are you voting
consensus-
on?
I'm asking for consensus on whether or not this moves forward. That's what I'm
I
asking
think it's
for.
pretty clear. Are you going to vote for it?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No.
I don't think we need to.
So no.
So
Okay,
that was a
finished.
waste of breath.
Okay, so now we move on to public facilities. Miss.
No, I meant
Excuse me.
Maggie's straw poll. vote.
Excuse me. Ms. Eglo, you requested that this matter be added to the agenda
Okay.
about public facilities.
Okay, another thing we've been talking about for a long time,
Thank
and
you.
as all of our residents sitting there on those very hard wood benches, the carpet in the town hall is shredding, the windows. So what we did is we tasked Matt Larissy to go over and do kind of like a KPIs of our township buildings. And what it would cost to continually repair and replacing broken systems in our township. I've mentioned before, my mom lives in Warren. I was just there the other day, and they have this beautiful complex. When I was on the Joint 911, Berkeley Heights has this beautiful complex. Milburn has separate buildings that are really in terrible condition. And Town Hall, the HVAC system, multiple zones and inefficiencies. The roof has concerns of developing concern of the main entrance roof line. The bathrooms, we couldn't even get the bathrooms replaced because of asbestos and the way that things are so old here. The electrical needs to be updated. The windows, all the windows need to be replaced. And the west side of the building's in worse shape. Barrett Community Center needs updating, including the gym, the roof, the game room. These are things that what do we call it? We're getting my brain frazzled here. An open space fund could go to. This is, we want these buildings available to our residents. The Giro building needs updating. You know, that's where a lot of people vote. The fire department, we have spent, and I don't know if Matt's
Wait, the
got the
open
numbers in
space
here.
fund can go to
To Gero
municipal
Park.
buildings in parks?
It's rec facilities, so I think there's some clarification that
I'm
needs to
sorry.
be made there, but I don't know that it's, what you said is untrue. I just think, you know, there might be some other parameters to it.
The fire department, we know we have spent, I don't know, million or more? Keep correcting that building?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna get better. It's an old building. The police department, update the report room and dispatch area, the locker rooms, upgrade the records room, the public works building. Ventilation, the roof is an ongoing issue during to age. Our municipal buildings are old. This is an old town full of history, as it may be, but it needs to be updated. And we can keep spending money piecemealing, or we could put together a really smart package and say, what are we gonna do about our buildings? Before we keep losing whatever little municipal land we have left to fair share housing, we need to take control of our own property. And I believe that if we don't do it now, before 2025, we put an area in need of redevelopment and protect our resources, and we provide you, our residents, with a comfortable meeting room. Us TC people, you know, I go to different meetings in different places, and Tara and I, a couple years ago, went to Newark for something. And they had this amazing building. The microphones were all built in. There was beautiful audio behind, a video for reports. I mean, like, I can barely see that TV screen from here. The podium, you guys get up and speak at like a shaky podium with a microphone that doesn't even stay stable. Like, why are we not making A1 class town, having A1 class municipal buildings? This is a project that should have been talked about for years. But once again, there's no continuity in what we do here. And I really feel that this should be put out for serious consideration on what we do to keep our buildings as high class as our town is. You know, we constantly fixing our schools up, and we might not have control over the Board of Ed, but when they put a referendum out, I believe we have to control it or approve it. They put a referendum out, which is one's coming out, by the way, very soon, another Board of Ed referendum. That's gonna affect your taxes, but we're doing nothing for our municipal buildings. So put it out there once again. Township Committee, do you ever, I mean, it means spending money, yes. We have the money, but are we just gonna let it sit in the bank? Or are we gonna fix our buildings for our workers? Our town hall workers are working with plastic on their windows. It just doesn't make any sense. So, Mayor, if you want to take a straw poll, does our Township Committee want to improve the conditions of our buildings for our police, our fire, and our town hall workers?
Can I just ask you a question? So are you saying that we should do what Livingston did, like to float a bond and have a new municipal complex?
Yes, I am
That's
saying
what you're
that, Mr.
To
Watson.
spend what, $25 million?
Yes. Something like, but
And that was police and town hall, but I think it was, I think it was 30.
30 million?
Yeah, but then if this building then can go into maybe then the fair share housing, this could be like refurbished into apartments. Smart use, commercial on the first floor, revenue driving, but meanwhile, the building is continued to falling apart. So I don't know, we bring people in here. Don't we have any pride of ownership of our town where your taxes go? So maybe that has to be a referendum also.
So I guess this is another tax increase with the bond. But I see it in here, town hall window, $60,000, 5-year capital plan. Town hall roof is $45,000, town hall restroom is $60,000. Let's bring that on, let's get that approved. Let's put them in. If the house is in need of windows, let's put the windows out there. We don't need to really make a one-class house and show how good we are. No, I'm fine with just fixing them. Not fixing them, putting a new one. With $200,000, you have a great bathroom, you have great windows. I don't even know why we are not replacing them now.
$200,000 for a powder room? Didn't you just do a lot of work? in your
Town hall
house?
restroom, $60,000. Don't you see that in your report?
That's a powder room.
Alex, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Right now, in terms of how the capital, how the capital planning is done, doesn't the township, just can you explain this to everybody? Doesn't the township set aside X amount of capital every year and then you make recommendations in terms of where that money is spent? Maybe with the department heads? Is that how it's?
Yeah, yes. The only thing I'll state and kind of a concern that I have going forward is that we as a municipality are finding ourselves with a lot of different pressure points in terms of infrastructure, in terms of facilities, in terms of fields, in terms of, all this. And so, yeah, everything. So, but I think that part of that is that, in order to be able to do a variety of different things and meet the needs of a variety of different concerns in the community, you need to sort of do a little bit more than just, a little bit here and a little bit there. We've always been very, conservative in our approach with the capital budget, and that we say, all right, we're gonna pay cash for most things, and we're going to, and most things do not go out to debt. And so, I think it's just sort of starting to have more of a mindset that, there's going to be some additional expense, because if what happens is when you start to prioritize expenses and you say, well, hey, look, we need to make sure that this concrete flume that takes stormwater out of our municipality gets repaired for $500,000. Well, that's going to mean that the roof repair at town hall is not as important, right? So I think there's just a degree of how we rank it. Yeah.
But is there a could there be a plan that you could put forth, like if the windows need fixing and we need new cameras and padding for the chairs? I mean, could there be a plan where you could come to us and say, we need, X amount, and that would really take care of most of the pressing issues? And I mean, is there anything in between where we could really address everything? I mean, I think Mr. Benayak said that, which I agree with. We don't want a broken roof, and we want the right cameras, and we want padding for our constituents, and we need those things. But I mean, I don't know. In other words, really what a question is, do we have to just go by the way things are done, where we allocate, $500,000 and that is spread around? I mean, is there an amount that we could spend, or that you can come up with, that would take care of the roof and the windows and the padding and the, is there something in between?
And we think over and over again to spend $1.5 million to make a field for ourselves. We went through years and years to put turf field on the library field. That is like $1 million, $1.5 million. We're talking about $30 million spent. I would rather spend that on the right infrastructure. Again, I'm not saying to have the building collapse down. We need to make sure that we take care of our buildings, but in the right way. I mean, if you have window broken, let's get it fixed. But having a brand new building where we can bring in police, we can bring in admin, again, that doesn't jive in my mindset.
Well, wouldn't that have to go out also? We could have a huge referendum a year from now. That would go out to, didn't Livingston have to do a referendum on that?
Yeah, no, they didn't have to do it.
Oh, I just think that, you know, if your house is falling apart, you potchkey it up. A lot of people are knocking down the old houses in town and putting up new houses that are energy efficient. They're cleaner, they're better environment. Our building department, I mean, they've got like reams of paper. They don't even have the CAD system. We're living like a century ago. Like I just don't understand, because you don't want to spend the money, Sanjeev. It's not your money only. You pay a little bit into the taxes.
Alex, wait, hold on one second. Alex, what happened with the bathrooms? This isn't a new conversation. Weren't the bathrooms gonna get redone?
Yeah, but the bids came in at $100,000.
Okay, so.
Let's rebid the bathrooms. Let's get the bathrooms fixed. All right, so how about,
Hold on, but don't we have a fire truck that we weren't expecting a big expense on?
Yeah,
That
but
is yearly
but again,
collected.
this is what I'm saying, and we can have a further discussion, but there are plenty of pressure points when running a municipality, when you know, in terms of what needs to be what. The concern with that, Ms. Prupus, is, you know, let's rebid, but my concern is the building as a whole. We can't do just, I mean, windows are different, but like patchwork to say, all right, we'll do the bathrooms. Well, how does that play into whether we need additional office space, or whether we need, you know, to create a better committee room or whatever? I
So are
feel
you
like there's
saying as
a
a-
bigger plan, if and I've said this for years now,
yeah,
is that if we're going to stay here,
yes.
fine, great. Then we need to do some real significant changes.
Okay.
And not just say, all right, well, yeah, do the windows or do the bathroom or whatever. It has to be a plan. It has to
Okay.
be something more comprehensive than
So
just
why don't we
piecemeal.
make a plan
Right.
as if we're gonna stay here? 'Cause I don't know where else we're going at this point.
Perfect.
Okay, so
If
we
that's
can.
what everybody's thought is,
there
then
are
great,
people-
then I will go ahead and do that.
Yeah, you should make a
Absolutely.
plan for here.
Information statement.
Well, why doesn't, let Alex, you make a plan for
Mhm.
here on what you need here. I mean, you live here.
Have a tier list.
Yep.
Rank all the other infrastructure
Right.
needs.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Anybody else?
Okay, folks, I'm trying to update the town.
Cushions, how hard is it to get these people cushions? Is that happening? For real?
Yeah.
You don't need a cushion? All right.
May
cushion
I have
tushy.
a motion to
closed.
adjourn the
Motion to
meeting?
adjourn.
Second. Good night.